the last one, we're doing a nice little dessert.
Yeah. So again, a lot of the time when we think of dieting, we think of restricting and not being able to have desserts. But we're going to show you a way that it's, because of the additional health foods that we've included, that there is room for these types of foods. And you know, a lot of times when you're dieting, you think, okay, there's no foods, I can't have this and I can't have that. But definitely everything can be part of a healthy, well-balanced diet.
Yes, absolutely. And for today, we wanted to use cocoa, we wanted to use chocolate, definitely satisfy that craving area. But we're going to use an ingredient that, for me, reminds me of the winter time, and sort of that idea of foraging and storage. And we're using storaging. It's a lot easier to say. We're going to use some dried figs. Has anyone used dried figs before? You see them in the grocery store. Usually they're tucked underneath the produce aisle, I find sometimes, on like the bottom shelf. We don't use them as much anymore. They're a nice little snack on their own, but they're a great way to add a little bit of sweetness to a dessert or any of your recipes. So what we did ahead of time is just soak them in a little bit of steeped water, boiling water from a kettle, just for like 5 minutes, just until they soften up considerably. So you can see they're really, really soft. Sometimes you buy them and they are pretty soft. Sometimes they're like rock hard. So it's a good way to sort of ensure that they will puree really well. So we're adding them to a food processor. You can do this in a blender as well. And now this is a dessert that you see in some parts of Italy, where they would turn this into sort of like a fig and nut bar, almost like a thin, dense cake. It would have a nice little bit of sweetness, but obviously with all the dried fruit and the nuts, you'd be getting a lot of energy from something like this.
Yeah, and also using dried fruit, especially in desserts or baked goods, is a really great way of substituting your sugar or honey. So it's a good way to get the sweetness, but you're also getting the benefits of the antioxidants and the fibers.
Yeah, absolutely. So putting them into a food processor, and I'm going to pulse this up just until we get a really nice smooth puree. Plug it in. And I added a little bit of the soaking liquid as well to that, just so it purees a little bit easier. If I need to add more after, I'll add more after, but it's better to add a little less at the beginning. I'm covering it with a towel because she's about 6 years old, and so like 20 seconds just until you get a really nice creamy paste. She behaved today. Yesterday, I was wearing half of it, so that's why. All right, so you can see almost this really nice cream paste, almost like a fig Newton. Yeah, fig Newtons? Yes, love fig Newtons. So this is like kind of like the center. This would be kind of like the center of a fig Newton. Really nice and creamy. You can even just make this stored in a little jam jar and put it in the refrigerator and like spread it on your toast in the morning. It's almost like a jam. Really, really, really tasty. And you have all these little, tiny little fig seeds in there as well that pop, which is kind of nice.
Could be fun.
So we have our fig puree. Now it's time to make our sort of creation here. So I start off with 2 eggs, and we're going to whisk that. So we have our egg. I'm going to add our pureed fig, so about a cup worth of the puree. Try to get it all in there. And mix it. And Stephanie, do you mind adding in some of the olive oil?
Sure.
Right there. So we're adding olive oil as our fats here, which might kind of seem weird in a dessert, but I find that it works really well with the fig and
Do you
with
want
the
me to
cocoa.
do it as you're stirring?
Yeah, you can just add it in there. So this is pretty much our main source of fat. We're not adding any butter or anything. Just a little bit of that olive oil. And we're gonna add just a little bit of honey, about a quarter cup. You don't need much.
Right, because of the sweetness from the figs. You don't need as much honey as, let's say, you would put another type of dessert because of the sweetness from the figs.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So that's just for sweetness?
It's just for a little bit of sweetness, yeah.
Flavor. Yeah.
If you didn't mind, you wanted to
Cut
keep
it.
it a little less, you can cut that out and just add a little bit more of the fig puree.
Yeah.
Just so that the volume stay
Oh, okay.
the same.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking of making it for the diabetic friendly recipe.
Mm-hmm.
Cut off the honey.
Yeah.
And so that's our wet ingredients in one bowl. Put your dry ingredients in a bigger bowl than this. But I have some toasted almonds, ground, a little bit of flour. So it's like 4 tablespoons of flour, not much, and half a cup of cocoa.
Yes.
So that's where we're getting our chocolate.
Yeah, and again, a lot of times when we're dieting or trying to restrict foods, we say, okay, no more chocolate, and that becomes a no-no food. But again, we're showing you that it is able to be incorporated into a healthy lifestyle. And also there's so much research showing that there are health benefits to dark chocolate. And this is coming from the flavonoids, which are phytonutrients. And they have anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and anti-blood clotting properties. So this, lots of the research hints that actually this has effects on heart health, so lowering blood pressure. But the research is limited to dark chocolate, my friends. So not in the white chocolate or milk chocolate. So sticking to kind of that cocoa chocolate that's over 70% is where you're going to get the benefits from.
So we're just combining it until it's mixed through.
Okay, I like it.
There's not much flour, but because there is some flour in there, we don't want to overmix it. If we overmix it, we overact the gluten, and it just becomes too dense. So
Add the flour if I want to make it gluten-free?
you can add just almonds, absolutely. It's gonna have still gonna have a nice texture. It's gonna be a little bit different, but you can absolutely just do almonds.
Yeah.
Just bump up your ground almonds and use that as sort of your flour.
You could also get a gluten-free flour if you wanted to make it gluten-free.
All right, so this is sort of what you're looking for, really nice sort of wet batter there. And what we're gonna do is throw it into just a springform pan, and I put some parchment on the bottom. And we're gonna pour it in. If you want anything to sort of show on the top, like, do I have any fig? Oh, I do. We have some figs. You can throw that into the bottom of the pan, especially if you have some nice fresh figs. You can slice those up. If you have some chopped nuts, you can throw that on the bottom as well. And that's it. And then we're just gonna pour it in. The best we can, and this is going to come out pretty thin. This is not a cake by any means. It's more of like a bar or square. We were sort of debating what to call it. So we're just going to spread it out. This might be easier for you guys to see, just until we flatten it. And then this goes into the oven 350 degrees for about 30 minutes. I warn you now, it is going to smell fantastic in the house.
Yeah. And so, yeah, so if chocolate or desserts are something that you love and it's one of your favorite things to have, actually restricting could cause you to want it and crave it even more. So, allowing yourself to have some and portion it adequately is, part of that healthy lifestyle habits.
All right. So that goes in. I made one obviously ahead of time, so you don't have to wait. And so that is what it looks like as it comes out. It didn't come with the drizzled dark chocolate on top. I did that additionally.
As long as it's dark chocolate.
Then we're
That's
okay. But that's pretty much what we're looking for. I cut some up too on another one, just so you can see. But that's it. That's the last recipe.